Karen here. Thank you for joining me today. It is May the 11th, 2020. And the practice that we will have today is an overall balancing practice. And so this is for both physical, emotional, and mental practices that can help bring you into balance at all levels. And so we'll go ahead and get started. What you will need for today's practice is to set your mat up, clear some space around so that you have space against a wall behind you. Your mat is long. And if you have a yoga belt or a tie or a bathrobe belt, anything that you can use as a tie you might need. And if you do have a block, then get that ready as well. And if you don't, then don't worry about it. And we'll go ahead and get started. So sitting up nice and tall. If it's difficult for you to sit on the floor, then you can do this practice that we begin with sitting on a chair. Just close the eyes and just tune in to your insides today to see how it feels right now in this moment inside your body. Just begin by a little scan from head to toe, seeing how uncomfortable or comfortable things are inside. Is it relatively calm or is it relatively stormy today at this moment? There's still lots going on with our COVID-19 pandemic. How stressful has this been for you? And in what way has it been the most stressful for you? Is it the staying home that's stressful? Or is that actually been an opportunity to get caught up on projects that you've had on hold? Just noticing emotionally how you feel right now. Noticing the state of the mind right now, the monkey mind. Is the mind crazy busy, or is it relatively calm without judging or needing anything to be different than the way it is right now? Just noticing what is present. And then take the attention towards the breath. Without changing the breath, notice how is your body breathing right now. Do you tend to naturally breathe through your mouth or through your nose? Are your breaths shallow or deep? And then begin to deepen your breath. So beginning to send the breath down to the belly, down into the pelvis area, and fill with breath from the bottom to the top. So down to the belly on the inhale, filling up all the way up to the collarbones. Exhaling out of the collar, out of the chest, out of the belly. And then we're going to take this into a rhythmic breath practice called the square breath. So it's an equal length of time for both the inhalation, holding the breath in, the exhalation, and holding the breath out. So we'll go for a count of 4. So it's an inhale for a count of 4 through the nose. Holding the breath inside for a count of 4. 2, 3, 4. Exhaling for a count of 4. 2, 3, 4. Holding the breath out for a count of 4. Inhaling for a count of 4. Holding the breath in for a count of 4. Exhaling for a count of 4. Holding the breath out for a count of 4. So continue here for a minute with this square breath. Inhaling and exhaling through the nose. And finishing this next round. And just coming back to your light breath, your natural, unrestricted breath. Okay, so now coming to bring the legs in front here. As you sit up nice and tall, nice long spine. We'll just move into some sitting cat-cow for our spine, for lengthening and flexing the spine. So let's just begin to lean back a little bit into this and round the upper back as you bring the shoulders forward. You can slide the hands beneath the back of the thighs here. Draw the belly in, drop the chin down towards the chest. And inhale and pull it forward. Lift and open the front of the chest. Draw the heart forward. Exhale, round it back. Chin drops down to chest. Really open up in behind the heart. Inhale, pull it forward. Open up through the front of the chest. Exhale and round. So move in with the breath. Rounding on the exhale, pulling it forward on the inhale. Looking up on the inhale, looking down on the exhale. Couple more here. Inhale, lengthen up. Exhale, round it back. Last one here. Inhale, bring it up. Exhale, round it back. Then coming back to center and sitting up nice and tall. Sitting up nice and tall, just feeling grounded and centered, just noticing how it feels to sit in a nice lengthened position. Just close the eyes and sense inside into what it actually feels like to feel centered, tall and lifted. And then we're going to begin to do some circling here. So hands on to the top of the knees. And now as we round back, we're in a circling movement. Coming forward, pull the heart forward, circle it around. So just find a way that this feels comfortable for you to just begin to bring some movement in here through our center, circling around. Make sure that your Knees are comfortable. You could also do this from sitting on a chair. Find a rhythm with your breath. Exhale as you come back and around and open up through the upper back. Inhale, come forward, pull the heart forward. Couple more circles in this direction. And we'll just come back and take a pause at center, close the eyes. Once again, tune in to that balance at center. Now switch the cross of the feet as we rotate in the opposite direction. So lean it back and rotating around. So now I'm going from left to right. Just reversing this direction. Moving with the breath. Staying tuned into sensations that arise. Remembering to always stop if any movement creates pain for you in your body. Pain is the signal to stop. Couple more circles in this direction. Next circle around, and then we'll come back to center. Pause at center, close the eyes, drop the shoulders, soften the face. Let the breath re-regulate itself naturally. Good. Now coming on to the hands and knees. So coming into tabletop position, bringing the wrists beneath the shoulders and the hips over top of the knees. Knees are hip distance apart here. Spread the fingers here, and let's just lift the palms here for a moment to stretch into the fingers. We have tight muscles into the hands and into the fingers, then release the palms back down, but pay attention to that index finger knuckle. So we really want a deep contact here through the index knuckle, separating the fingers equally apart. Inside of the elbows facing each other here, and we'll take dog and cat from hands and knees here. So on the inhalation, beginning the movement from the tailbone as you begin to lift the tailbone, tilting the pelvis, dropping the belly. As we extend here through the spine, lift through the crown of the head, shoulders are down. Press weight equally into the arms, down into the palms. On the exhale, begin from the tailbone. Begin to round and take the chin down. Gaze down between the feet or up towards the belly button. Inhale, lengthen out. Exhale and round. So taking the length of your breath for the movement. Extending on the inhalation. Flexing on the exhalation. Draw the belly in. Navel back to front of spine. And if this is sore for your wrists, you could always do this with fists, or you could come down onto the forearms. Finding a modification that works for you. A couple more here. Extending, lengthening, and rounding and flexing. Now on the next inhalation, as you drop down into dog, we'll take this a little bit further into our downward dog. So bring the arms a little bit forward here, keeping that alignment of pressing into the index knuckle. Hands are still shoulder distance apart. Tuck the toes. And with bent knees for your first downward dog, begin to lift the tailbone high, drop the chest down, pressing weight equally into the arms, seeing how it feels to straighten your legs. You might need to keep working with bent knees here in your downward dog. Inside edge of the big toe facing forward. Firm into the legs. Inhaling, exhaling through the nose. Chest dropping down towards the thighs. Now we're going to take a little flow here. So we'll flow between downward facing dog. Come forward through plank pose and have a little pause there in your plank to stabilize the pelvis. Here you might want to drop the knees. So we're finding a way to come forward down onto the floor. And then here you have the choice of working with cobra, lifting up into your cobra, or lifting all the way up into a supported up dog or a full up dog. Whatever pose you're choosing to do here, we begin by lengthening into the legs. So reaching through the legs, dropping the tailbone back, pubic bone is pressing down on the inhalation, lifting and holding. Then transitioning from the knees down, tuck the toes, back up into downward facing dog. So just working with whatever flow is right for you today. If you're working with a chair, you can just use the chair for your up dog. You may have to reposition your arms as you come down. Really find the foundation first. Reaching back through the legs. Might be a baby cobra, it might be a full cobra, hips are down, might be a modified up dog, or a full up dog with the legs lifted, just the tops of the feet on the floor. And next time you come to downward facing dog, pause there. And then move from downward facing dog, drop the knees, knees wide, big toes together, and then just take a pause in a variation of child's pose, whatever feels comfortable for you. Arms reaching forward. If the forehead can reach the floor, bring the forehead to the floor. Buttocks sitting back towards the heels. And coming back up onto hands and knees. Tuck the toes, come back into your downward facing dog. Just for a moment here. Now you can come to we're going to move into a side plank. So the full expression of this pose coming from downward facing dog is to come forward, shoulders over the wrists, and then to spin the feet, raise the arm. This is your full side plank here, variation. You could also drop one knee down. This is perfectly fine here. A supported side plank. So we'll go for 3 breaths in the lifted position. Come back to downward facing dog for a couple of breaths. Remember, you come forward to plank, then the feet spin, arm lifts, keep the hips lifted. Back to down dog in between. And if down dog is just too much today, you could come back to tabletop. If you're working with supported side plank, then one knee is down, the other leg is extending. Choosing the variation that's right for you today. Maybe sometimes you go all out and you're always working with the most challenging variation. Is it difficult for you to choose something that's maybe not quite as challenging because the body's tired today? It needs a little bit more rest. Maybe you always work with the not so challenging pose. What is that about? We'll just do a couple more here. Side plank challenges our balance, challenges our strength, challenges our breath. And last one here, whichever side you're on, and we'll take a pause and rest in a variation of child's pose. Whichever variation is comforting for you in this gentle fold forward. Maybe the arms back beside the feet. Knees together, knees wide. Now continuing to work with challenging balance and also with flowing movements. So most often when people do have falls, we don't fall from a standing position. We're usually in motion, often on a set of stairs. That's typically one of the most common positions for falling. So we want to work with our balance where we're moving from one pose to another pose. So those transitions are really helpful for strengthening our ability to balance. So here as we come from downward facing dog, on an inhale, take the right leg up, bend the knee, and it might take a few steps here to bring that knee forward, trying to bring it all the way through, to step it through. Back heel is lifted. And then it might take a few steps. Here we want the knee directly over the heel in front. To lift up here to balanced warrior. Arms lifting. Getting steady. Find a drishti, a focal point to focus your gaze in front of you. And we're just going to begin to flow here. So come down on an exhale, step back into downward dog. We don't need to spend a long time in downward dog, just to recenter Inhale, lift the left leg. Bend the knee, try to step it forward. Then find a way to transition up into balanced warrior. As many steps as it takes is fine. Once we're here, holding, balancing, and breathing. Coming down on the exhale, stepping it back to down dog, taking a couple breaths. Lifting the leg on the inhale, bend the knees, step it through. Inhale, rise up. And for some of you, you might actually have your back knee down. If you can balance with that back leg lifted. Bringing it up. Exhale, come down a couple more times. On the inhale, the leg lifts. Bring it through. You might have to step the back foot in a little bit. Find your balance. Rise up. Lift the arms. Breathe, focus. Getting a little warmer now. Challenging our hips, challenging our thighs. One more time on each side here. Next time, hands come down, step the back foot forward, coming into Uttanasana, forward fold. Bend the knees, sweep the arms forward, and come all the way up, palms touch. Exhale, hands to the heart. Good, okay, now coming to mountain, Tadasana. Feet either together with big toes touching, heels slightly apart, or separating the feet hip distance apart. And glance down at the toes, spread the toes, and root them down. Finding our Tadasana. Firm the legs, stack hips over top of the knees and the shoulders over top of the hips. Balance the head right at the center of the shoulders with the ears over top of the shoulders. Inhale, the arms up, palms facing. Keep rooted down through the legs. Right hand reaches for the left wrist. Rotate the left palm up and really lengthen and stretch up here through the left side body. Now we're going to take a lean over to the right. Head stays between the arms. Inhale, exhale through the nose. Inhale, come back to center. Switch the grasp. Left hand reaching for right wrist, right palm reaching up. Long stretch through right side of the body, leaning over to the left. Head stays centered between the arms. Inhale back. So just let's do that a couple more times, reaching for the opposite wrist. Lengthen up first, then leaning over for a side bend. Really stretching through the side body. Inhale, come back. One more time to the other side. Lengthen, reach, and take it over. Back to center, pressing the arms open wide, stretch through the wrists, stretch through the forearms as we bring the arms back down. And let's just shake the arms a little bit here. Okay, so now if you do have a block and you're going to work with block, have it handy. And take the legs wide here. So taking your legs as wide as you comfortably can, open them up. Your hips will determine how wide you can open the legs. And then rotating the right leg completely out 90 degrees so that the knee faces the toes. So there's this inner spiraling outward here. Or the inner thighs spiraling out. Really ground down through the back leg, toes angled in a little bit here. So inner thighs are moving away from each other. Just find our balance here as we prepare for Trikonasana, triangle pose. Inhale, lift the right arm, lengthen up here. Keep active through the legs. And then beginning with a straight spine, reaching out over the leg. Reach, reach, reach. Now for some of you, the hand may rest high up on the thigh. If you are using a block, reaching for the block. If you don't have a block, we're just going to let the right hand land as though we're holding the leg was a tennis racket. A very light touch, so we're not collapsing and leaning into the leg. We want to stay nice and long and lifted. Trying to bring the left shoulder over top of the right shoulder, and then we can take the left arm up. Staying firm into the legs and hold and breathe here. Really big opening. Active legs. And some of you may even actually be able to bring either fingertips or palm down. So working with whatever variation works for you. You could also have a chair as a support. If you had the seat of a chair, it would look like this. Stay tuned in with the breath. One more breath here. Inhale, keep the legs firm, and lift and come out. Bring the toes back to center. And coming to the other side. So left leg rotates out completely, 90 degrees. Knee faces the toes. Right toes angle in. Find stability here with the legs. Reach up through the left arm and reaching out and over. Out, out, out. Long spine. Firm legs. Light touch to the leg or your block. Other arm lifting. Wrist over shoulder, take the gaze up to the palm if the neck will allow that. If not, then just keep a soft gaze down at your big toe. Every breath, opening and expanding. Strong, stable legs. On an inhalation, firm the legs. Inhale, come up. Bring the toes back to face forward. Now we'll move here into Parshvakonasana. Back to the right leg. Turn that whole leg out 90 degrees. Back toes in slightly. And bend the right knee. Either it's a little bit behind or just above the heel. And here, once again, you could use a block. Or you can rest forearm on the thigh. If you could easily reach to the outside of the right foot, then bringing that hand to the outside. Now notice the left shoulder here. If it's coming forward, we want to open it, bring it back. Take the left arm up, and then angling it down so that it's lining up with the back leg. Fingers together sharp. You might be right up here. But wherever you are, we're drawing the belly up and the chin in towards the left armpit here. Inhale, come up. Come through warrior two. Straighten the legs. Bring the toes to face forward. Coming to the other side. Left leg rotates out 90 degrees. Back toes in slightly. Bend the front knee. Forearm down to thigh, or to block on the outside of the foot, or fingertips down, trying to keep that top shoulder back as opposed to forward. So beginning arm up here, then bringing it down. Hold and breathe. One more breath. Inhale, come up through warrior two. Straighten the legs. Bring the toes to center. Stepping back to mountain Tadasana. Find your center. Close the eyes. Notice if it feels balanced. And release. So now we are going to use the wall behind us here for half moon pose, Ardha Chandrasana. So coming to the back edge of your mat, stretch the legs wide. So we come through the same actions as we used in Parshva Konasana. So we have a bent knee, either forearm is down on the thigh. You might need to come just a little bit away from the wall so you have that space. And we're going to shift the weight forward. So we shift the weight forward to the standing leg that begins to straighten, back leg lifts, and reaching out through both heels, trying to stack our top shoulder above our right shoulder, and then lifting the left arm up. So we're opening up in all directions here, and the wall is very useful so we don't have to completely rely on our own balance here. Hold and breathe. Stay grounded down through the base of your right big toe here. Standing leg, knee faces the toes. One more breath. Firm your standing leg. Inhale, lift up. Come back up. Switching to the other side. Angle the left toes out. Back toes in. Come through Parshva Konasana. Maybe forearm to thigh. Maybe you're using a block. Shift weight. Shift, shift. Back leg lifts. Front leg straightens. Opening up all directions using the support of the wall to really teach our body the actions that we're asking of it. We'll take a couple breaths here, and then we'll really challenge our balance by coming away from the wall. But when we're first learning Ardha Chandrasana, it's very, very helpful to have a wall. From the leg, inhale, come up, and release. So now coming away from the wall a little bit, you might need to move your mat. If you come forward to the front edge of the long side of your mat, you should be okay. Once again, let's try this without the wall just to see how much it challenges our balance. You must be willing to fall down and get back up and try again. Hand comes to the outside. Shift the weight, shift the weight. The wall in front can be handy, but I'm cheating. I'm going to take my hand away. I'm gazing down at my big toe. Once I get really steady here, then about a foot at a time, I'm going to change my gaze to look up in the direction of my left hand, but not quickly. Slowly, just finding something to soften the gaze on. A couple breaths at a time. And bend the knee, bring the leg down, come back up. Let's try the other side. It's practice. Yoga practice, as my first teacher Denise always used to say, it's never yoga all done, it's always yoga practice. Left leg turns out 90 degrees, right toes in, bend the knee, find your Parshva Konasana, Begin to shift the weight and do it mindfully and slowly if this is really challenging your balance today. Standing leg begins to straighten, pressing out through the heels. You don't have to lift the top arm, maybe hand on waist is the most stable for you. If you want to challenge the balance even more, top arm lifts, and about a foot at a time, finding a place to settle the gaze as you slowly remember to breathe, and you can soften the standing leg, bring the back leg down and come back up. Step it back to mountain. Close the eyes. Find your center. Now, if you have a belt, a tie, I'm going to just use it here for a moment as we come into a variation of Utkatasana to open the front chest. So feet hip distance apart. Begin to bend the knees. Look down. You want to be able to continue to see your big toes. So we're descending down and taking the sitting bones back so we can continue to see our feet. And here, if you could actually reach your hands together easily. This is an opening for the front of the chest here. So as we slide the arms down, our front chest is opening. For some of us, using a belt helps to get that opening action here for the front of the chest. And then with a straight spine, taking it forward, extending the arms away from the body behind us as we fold down over the legs. If you ever feel dizzy throughout your practice, come to the floor. Keep yourself safe. Begin to bend the knees with a straight spine. Come back up. And release. Take the stance a little bit wider here. Now you might still be using the belt if you find that it's quite easy to link the hands together and straighten the arms as you slide the hands down behind your buttocks. Rotate, lift, and open your shoulders. Firm into the legs. Exhale, forward fold. Trying to allow the arms to release away. Let the head hang. Now some of you may be able to actually step wider so that the crown of the head can rest on the floor. One more breath, firm into the legs. Inhale, come up. And release the arms. Heel toe in. Step it back to mountain. Find stability, find center. Close the eyes. And release. So we're going to come back down onto our mat. Onto the back for bridge pose, set to Bandha Sarvangasana. Feet hip distance apart. Toes facing down to the bottom of your mat. Ankles under the knees. And really tune into the soles of the feet. So here we're going to begin to press the feet down as we lift the spine off the floor. Inner thighs, a little rotation inward as you slowly Lift up into an easy bridge. Bring the elbows in nice and close to the body. Neck is long, chin down to the chest. If you can come into full bridge, link the hands, walk the elbows under. So the outer part of the upper arms, the triceps, pressing down through the forearms. Hold and breathe here. And release the arms. Slowly, slowly release the spine from the top to the bottom. Draw the knees into the chest. And circle around 4 or 5 times in both directions. Bring the feet back down to the earth. Roll it over to a fetal position to come back up to sitting. And we'll finish this practice off with alternate nostril breathing, Nodi Shavana, a very balancing breath practice. So beginning with your non-dominant hand, finger and thumb together, resting on that knee. I'm right-handed, so I'm going to use my right index finger, middle finger, fold them in, and I'm going to open and close my nostrils with my thumb.